Recording is on.
Hola, hola, welcome to the weekly developer call of DXDAO, 17th of January of 2023. Today we are going to be doing the usual roundup of our DXDAO projects, and we are going to have, I believe, like two short presentations from DXGov team that are going to be presenting the integration of Sentry in Davi application, and from Dino, he's going to be presenting an architecture that on how they design and store of hooks in order to fetch data from different guilds on the and show it in a yeah and how they implement it in the in code in Davi. When he talked with me last week when he came to visit to my house, I thought it was really interesting, and I proposed him to share what they did in the weekly developer call. So first, let's start with the projects roundup, and let's start with DSGov first, and we leave the presentations for the last.
Yeah, I guess there's probably not too much in the roundup itself. Most of, like the entirety of the last sprint, which just ended last week, was doing that architecture work that Dion's going to present later. So that's mostly all complete. We have a couple of PRs remaining, but it's all gone very well. And so now we're moving on to kind of actually using the architecture for something interesting, which is what it was originally designed for, which is supporting both RPC calls and subgraph fetching store. So we're implementing the subgraph side of that starting from the sprint now. Yeah, we're actually just on a call mobbing the setup of that. And I'll leave the rest for Dino to explain later. Other interesting stuff. At some point this week, hopefully in the next couple of days, we'll have a release going out of Davi v 2.4. So keep an eye out for that. It's just going through the last stages of QA now. And I think that's probably everything for the roundup, unless you have anything to add, Augusto.
Yeah, on the DXL contract side, we received the final report from Omega. There are, I think, like three issues left to fix, three or four. They are small ones. There is. I'm currently discussing with them how we can finally agree on a safe on a good and safe way to execute proposal from the body machine, because we did changes there. And yeah, that is in the last stage. We will be closing the final report and implementing the final fixes this week. And important, a very good thing is that it was audited, the DAO avatar with the same snapshot reputation token that we are using on the guilds. This is cool because we had the re-audited again. The ERC20 snapshot token that we use for the guilds, we use exactly the same for the DAO avatar, for the DAO reputation token. And yeah, the final report will be hopefully shared, I think, next week. And we will be able to start working on how we are going to fetch the data from Davi, and we are going to start planning how we are going to integrate this DAO framework into Davi. So yeah, I guess that will be happening in the following month.
Yeah, I think it's, well, let me check my chart. I'm pretty sure it's basically as soon as we finish the subgraph stuff for guilds, we're moving on to integrating Gov 1.5 and Davi using that new architecture we have.
Yeah. And next, I'm planning to do a gathering from the contributors that are here in Argentina, to my house here in Mar del Plata, where we are going to be talking about the final steps on implementing Governance 2.0 here in person. It's going to be Federico Nani, Milton, Tomas, me, and hopefully Dino, if we can convince him to join, where we are going to be, again, in person here working on writing the final smart contract changes to integrate to start spinning up Governance 2.0 in the next DAO version that is going to be happening on Davi. So next week, next weekly developer call is going to be a lot of us in person here. That is going to be very good, and yeah, looking forward to it. Now moving to the next project, Swapper. Adam.
Sure. For Swapper, nothing major happening, but we have like some crazy ideas we want to explore. So we are playing with Cow and seeing if we can actually do some sort of a DCA product where it allows users to dollar cost average into an asset of their choice. Mirko is working on a new Swapbox V2, I believe. He demoed it on the weekly call. It's really minimalistic. I like it. I'm not sure if Mirko is available if he wants to do a demo of that. But yeah, that's the current state of things. Leonardo is working on some patches for the limit order. We're also working on adding Fathom for the Eco Bridge. We're also adding some other additional metrics to track who's using the Pro mode or who's using just the regular simple mode for Swapper. So those are the main things happening at Swapper. Yes, I forgot. We're also we have like 1-inch integration. So this was done by Violet. It's basically taps into 1-inch and then taps 1-inch taps for onto like all the available protocols that have integrated. So this is available on Avalanche, Polygon, Arbitrum, Mainnet, and then Gnosis. Basically, we're just going to have like the ones that Swapper currently supports.
Okay. Okay, awesome. Yeah, the 1-inch integration looks great. So now you are going to have access to all 1-inch. How do you say, like
1-inch
router
liquidity.
options? Okay. 1-inch liquidity. Okay.
Yeah, but I have to mention that like 1-inch adds like the gas because like it's usually more cost in terms of gas, but also they also take a fees and also the slippage if it's positive. 1-inch is going to take that as a profit for themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that is hard to take in account, right? When you are offering all the different options in the
Eco router.
in the eco router for all the different swaps, right?
Yeah, I mean it's gonna be there, but I'm not expecting people taking 1-inch over
Right.
another protocol. Because EcoRouter doesn't take a additional fee, whereas like 1-inch is going to take that, but also takes the slippage if it's positive.
Okay. Okay. Interesting. Well, awesome. Mirko, if you want to demo the Dropbox you've been working on, we can do it at the end of the call.
I can do it now as well.
Buena. Yeah, let's do it now.
Okay, this is currently what we have regarding designs. There are some things missing. I had a sync up call with Zet and Wenky today, and we went through it. And right now, I think it's clear. We have everything that we need for this part of the process. And what this is how it looks like. You can take this is closed swap box. This is expanded with the details about transactions, and these are the states that we were discussing today. This is what is done right now. So basically, the focus was on creating the UI first. After this, we'll proceed with the implementation, and we are still discussing whether we should use the old functionalities or we should rewrite everything. Right now, this is what we have. I componentized this box. I tried to make it modular. If we were, for example, to team it in the future. And I mean, this is work in progress. All of the values are placeholder values, and it currently has no functionalities. But I think that we will proceed with the functionalities in the next week.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Looks good. Yeah, looking fresh.
Yeah, I mean, Zed tried to make it clean.
Yeah, it definitely cleaner. I've been using Swapper, I think, last week, and yeah, I can see the difference now. It is easier to understand. Less information there. Way cleaner.
I think that's that. If you have any questions, I'm willing to answer. If not, I guess we can proceed.
Yeah, looks great, Mirko.
Well, thanks,
Very
man.
good. Good work. Okay. Next project will be Carrot. We have Dio here, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, on Carrot, we've been working on campaigns page. They will allow you to filter campaigns. We are working on that. For now, we just have the structure, the UI structure, but now we'll start to play with data as well and start to do some filtering on that. Federico also deployed the EPFS gateway for Carrot. And yeah, I think that's it for this week.
Yeah, kudos to Fede for the IPFS pinner. I saw the code on Brilliant Rust, and an IPF pinner, Brilliant Rust that is consuming Carrot ABI bytecodes, and yeah, pinning information on IPFS directly related to Carrot, and looks very good. Yeah, very interesting.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, hopefully something that we can use later for that we can add, let's say, like ABIs or information that we want to pin related to other projects. That would be super interesting, and an eventual future integration with NapNode, because since it's written in Rust, I think can be easily added on a NapNode.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that was all the project roundup. Any other project or initiative that we want to review before we start with the two other presentations of the DXdev? Nope. Okay. I don't know. What do you want to present? What do you want to show first? I believe we have Sentry, and yeah, the store of hooks.
I can do mine first. It's fairly quick, probably. So yeah, I wrote a message briefly in the public development channel, just at the end of last week, about Sentry. So that kind of goes over it a little bit for anyone wanting to click some links. But essentially, I mean, most people are probably at least relatively aware that error monitoring tools are fairly common, at least outside of DXdev and I guess potentially Web3. But yeah, they're just tools that monitor errors from your front end or back end. For us, we're talking about the front end in Devi. And so Sentry is just a service that basically aggregates all those errors and gives you somewhere to look at all of them. Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, it's a pretty cool tool. There's lots of alternatives to it as well. It's a pretty packed market. But yeah, we're kind of running to the issue where, yeah, like if you've used DXvo or if you've used a Devi, if you run into errors, it's very difficult for us to pinpoint exactly what's happening. Often it involves asking users to open up their console and show us what they're seeing. This basically lets us get around this. At a very basic level, it lets us look at the exact error that's happening in a user's machine and give us some more details so that we know where to actually dig it through the code without bothering the user for more details. And a further level that allows us to actually look at errors over time, seeing if there's regression, seeing if there's like a trend towards certain errors, and actually checking that errors go away once we do new releases. Just quite a lot of cool stuff there. Obviously, I think it's relatively similar to how we used to approach like analytics in DXdev, where it's a super useful feature this time more for development than business or decision-making stuff that it was with analytics. Obviously, we've kind of changed our tune on that with things like Fathom. It's slightly less of a concern probably because it's not like Google are providing our error tracking management. It's an actual product that we pay for. So it does make it a little bit different, but by default, it is still a bit of a security concern. They log IPs, and by default, they have some data scrubbing stuff, but it's still, for the most part, storing most data that's happening inside your users' consoles. So fortunately, we can just choose to not log IPs. That's a nice thing in Sentry. And the other side of it is scrubbing. So they have server-side scrubbing. Scrubbing just being basically they have all this data that's coming and they're storing from the errors and the logs and taking personal identifiable information out of that. We're basically relying on the default stuff that they provide, but also adding on top of that some client-side scrubbing of our own. So that goes through transactions, addresses, ENS names. I think that's all we have just now. Basically any Web3 specific PII information we can think of. And so by removing that, there isn't really a lot you can do to identify users. That's kind of the main concern, is just trying to keep any privacy issues to a minimum that we can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is very important. Both things. First, protecting the users. So we should be very strict on what we are sending to Sentry, and then using Sentry on reporting issues, right? So I believe that Sentry is going to save a session or regarding a user when you are using the application, let's say Davi, and if you find an issue and you want to submit a bug, what do you have to look for Sentry so the team, the DXCOP team can access to that, let's say, user session details in order to debug?
Yeah, pretty much. We haven't got it set up perfectly. I think there'll be still some guesswork of working out what exactly is happening, but it's just an additional tool in our tool for finding bugs, essentially. Again, it's not fully set up. I can show what it looks like, I guess, if no one's seen it before. We just have it set up in QA just now. And we haven't gone through any of these issues. So a lot of them are non-issues or issues we know about. But it's pretty cool. Let's just see how many times it's happening. If we go into it, we can see where it's happening from. This would usually have an IP address in it, which obviously we don't want to be doing. We can see browsers, which is stuff obviously you would be normally filling out in a very boring bug report application. I don't think we have any examples. I can maybe try and find one and post it in a chat later, where we scrub addresses, but it just replaces strings basically. The one exception to that is URLs. So that's pretty essential to debugging. The rest of it, we can certainly, it would be nice if we had all of the data, obviously, if we could see the exact transaction IDs and addresses and stuff, it would make life easier, but it's enough that we can get rid of it and have the privacy and still get enough debugging information to solve stuff.
Yes, Ross.
Yeah, we haven't decided. No, go ahead.
What is enabled when they change the content hash from an I think it was from a
just in QA just now.
Okay. But in case, for example, in case that when they broke it, when he changed the content hash and we weren't able to fetch it and it was generating an error and you couldn't use it, we would have been able to see that, right? If we had it set configured.
Yeah, I need to change the notifications a bit because right now it's emailing me every time we get an error in QA. But yeah, it would let us know that's happening, and we can set it up. Obviously, there's a lot of configuration we can do to actually like highlight new errors, highlighting breaking errors versus just like things that are happening in the console, so we can actually see like unhandled errors. Yeah, as I say, it's just in QA right now, so we haven't committed to putting it into production. Kind of wanted to see what people's reactions to it were. Have maybe some more privacy-oriented people
I
think
guess,
about if there's anything.
yeah, I guess let's leave it in QA. So if you want to use only production because you don't trust Sentry or you don't trust the analytics of Sentry or what your or what is consuming, just use it. Just let's leave it in QA, and we can use in production anything we want. And if we find a bug, if we think we find a bug in production, we can replicate it in QA, and it will be shown in Sentry,
Well,
right?
I would like to release it into production. That's the whole point that we were doing it for. It's just in QA just now because we've not released yet. So we're planning on making a call before we do the release and if we include it in production or not. We're not trying, QA is just for internal stuff, so we're not trying to have people use that.
Yeah. Yeah, but
it
maybe
would be
us
useful to have it in
internally.
production.
Yeah, maybe us internally, we can still do like heavy testing internally using QA, and yeah, just for that. I don't know. We have to be careful if we are going to be integrating something like this in production. Because we need to be 100% sure that it's not going to leak any personal or private data into Sentry. Just that.
Yep. So yeah, if anyone can have a think, if we've missed anything, that'd
Can
be great. And if not, we'll.
I make a suggestion about Sentry? It's not related to privacy, but I've used them in the past. And one issue we encouraged was like a very repetitive issue, like an error happening on loops. For example, this was on the back end. I know this is going to be in the front end, so it's less usual, but you still have to be careful. If you find something that gets triggered like many times per second, it will fill up all the Sentry errors, and because you pay based on the amount of data you get in, it happened to us in the past where we got the quota, like the money filled up just because of one error. So we had to implement things to prevent if the same error is happening over and over, just to stop it. We couldn't find like built-in software within Sentry to do that, so we had to implement it on our side. It was like I remember the bill was quite high because of that, and it's a silly mistake to make, and it's very costly.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, that's a good one. I think just now, I had one that was like a sponsored plan that I'd tried. I think previously it has 5 million error handles.
Yeah, I remember we filled that
I
quite
don't think
quick.
there's no credit card on it just now. So.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
The free
if
one
the
would
free-
fill up fast if it was.
Yeah, yeah. The free plan won't be enough if you have a loop error.
Yeah, the one I have just now is fine, and I think there's an even better one that's like fairly cheap, so long as it's not unlimited, because that sounds like a dangerous combination of infinite loops and a credit card.
Okay. Yeah, let's be careful about that then. Thanks, Nessa. Okay, we can move to the next thing. Dino, do you wanna present the store of hooks, or I don't know if that's the proper name for it or not?
Yeah, you can call it whatever you want.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, so how this came up, we were implementing data fetching using the subgraph. I mean, right now, Davi does all the data fetching using RPC calls, but we had two issues. One is the amount of data that we get, the amount, not the amount of data, but the aggregating data and doing stuff like that, doing RPC calls, was going to be very complicated, and some things we couldn't even implement. And the other thing was, we had, well, if you've been using Davi, some RPC issues are common, or I don't know if common, but there are RPC issues. And so with the subgraph, things are we can do more data transformation before sending it to a user, and it's way faster, and we hope it's way more stable than the RPC calls. So the initial issue we had is like, how do we combine two data sources? How do we fetch data from two data sources that the idea is to get the same data because one's going to be like the default, with default fetch from the subgraph, and then if that doesn't respond or whatever, then we fetch data from the RPC calls. How do we combine that in a way that's scalable and don't have to re-implement everything in every component? So the idea is this zoom-in part. It's like we could have a store that has a features hook, and that features hook just will expose one set of hooks that gets, I don't know, for example, get proposal data, and the component won't care about what the use proposal data does. It just cares that it gets the information of the proposal information, the proposal information. It doesn't care if it comes from the subgraph or an RPC call. And when we zoom out of that idea, we realized that could solve another problem. It was, how do we support more than one governance implementation, right? Right now we only have guilds, but in the near future we're going to have governance 1.5, then governance 2.0, and then, I don't know, maybe governor or whatever other governance implementation we might need or think it's good to have. So that one feature could be used for both problems, and how we solved it was making a store that exposes a common a common object that has, I mean, let me show the code.
Zoom in, Dino.
Yes. This is like the cool part. It's like we have this governance implementation is shared across all the app, and these hooks are gonna expose the hooks related to that data fetching implementation. So what's the idea? We have here an index that's like the old host of all the logic of these changing implementation types. We get right now we match bytecodes with governance implementation, but that's how we do it. And the cool thing is we just return one object and says, okay, this is the name of the governance type, whatever. These are the capabilities that lets us, for example, this governance implementation has snapshot, this governance implementation, it's only rep, whatever. And then you have hooks. That hooks are filled with fetchers and writers. So the component will only call hooks.fetchers.get proposal information or hooks.writers.vote proposal. And it will send the data to the hook. And how that the data is processed will depend on the governance implementation that we have here on the right. Each module will have a different governance implementation. That each module have its features, events, writers here in the common folder. This will change soon, but yeah, that's the core idea. So in each component, we just call that hook. One hurdle we had was React really doesn't like their hooks order to be changed. So when we implemented two kinds of the same hook with two different implementations, we call different hooks at different order. That's expected. We were getting errors. So how we solved it was a very high level loading state, that if the hook implementation is still loading, it de-renders the whole app and switches the hooks and renders the app again. So that's all the different hook order error in React. So that's basically it. Oh, just another thing. We have this check data source availability that will check every 10 seconds, but it could be more or less, if the default data source is healthy. And that could be whatever you want. The idea was also to everyone who wants to implement different governance implementation should be flexible enough to allow for for a lot of different things, different implementations could be. So every 10 seconds, it checks if their default data source is healthy, however you define healthy, and returns either true or false. If it's not healthy, it will go to a fallback data source fetching mechanism that you define. So yeah, the idea is to check if the subgraph is healthy. If it's not, we default to RPC calls. And the way it's done, you don't need two data sources. That's just if you want it more robust. But you can just have one data source, and basically the health check will always return true. And you can just every time have only one data source for fetching. So that's it. The code, well, it's in GitHub. It's basically all merged. And yeah, we had to do a lot of typing to assure that we get past the same data and return the same data for every hook. So that's cool to have a very robust typing system. Yeah, that's it. That's basically the new architecture coming soon.
Awesome. It is great to have two sources of data. I think we are usually relying on one. Swapper uses only the graph, right, Adam?
What was that? Gustav?
Swapper uses only the graph, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. And it works great, right? But if the graph is down, boom, that's it. Swapper
Well,
goes down.
the thing about the subgraph is it allows you to actually retrieve all data. For example, let me give an example. If you want to calculate your principal on Swapper right now, there is no way you can do it without having to track all of the minting and burning of LP fees or of LP tokens since the inception of the router or Swapper router in the factory. With the subgraph, you have all of these data, and then you aggregate it. You take the burns and then the mint, and then you get your principal. I don't think it's possible with the RPC without the subgraph.
You need an archival node to that. So you still can, but it's a lot of work on
You
decoding.
can, but can you do it?
Yeah,
Can you
easier
do this information within 30 seconds?
Yeah. I mean, no way. I mean, you still can, but you actually have to build some like the graph kind of indexer. So it's already there. So let's use it.
Exactly. And the graph is written in Rust, and Rust is like pretty fast. But the thing is, like, if you have like right now, if you want to run like a full archive node, I think the space you need is
It's quite
about 10.
expensive. Yeah, it's like it costs a couple thousand a month on AWS.
Not just the cost, but I think but the size is like around 18 terabytes, if not mistaken. It's definitely above 10 terabytes. But like, imagine like how can you retrieve all of this data, let alone parsing it within 30 seconds? It's impossible.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
But
the way we're getting, obviously we have a bit of a nicer time in governance. There's only a few features that we can't do with just straight getter functions, and so we just have some features that are subgraph only.
Exactly.
But yeah, the aim for us is to be able to still operate the DAO if the subgraph is down.
It's totally doable. It depends on the data you want to retrieve. Are you trying to get like a up-to-date information? Let's say you want to get the balance of a token. You can do this. You can do this using the RPC, or you can do it using the subgraph, because the subgraph can also track those information if you want to. But I would rather go with the RPC. It's just one call.
Yeah, the idea is also here to have, well, now the graph has become like a standard, right? And like every application use it. And we don't know if this is going to be the case in the future. Hopefully, there's going to be an alternative for the graph in the future, or someone that, I know, will fork the project or start their own index or service. Or you can also rely on RPC and direct connection to nodes, right? That
Actually, sorry to interrupt you, but if you want to, you can actually run your own the graph indexer and like deploy your subgraphs there, so it's under your own infrastructure control if you really want to.
Yeah, and this
Yeah,
is
that's
something
an
that
option.
we should. Yeah, this is something that we should also be experimenting.
I can tell it's a
Run it
pain.
ourselves.
Yes, I tried on a
yeah.
previous project, and also like the graph is not that reliable as it looks. I've got plenty of experience in the graph, but yeah, you definitely can. I know
Yeah.
some people from the graph. If we want to get some information about how to do that.
We have a Telegram group with them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Also, the graph is moving to the decentralized network. Like every subgraph deployed today is gonna be shut down in June, I believe. But right now, if you want to deploy a new subgraph, the recommended way is that you go and get about 3,000 GRT tokens, and then you stake that, and then you deploy it using the Graph Studio.
Not sure now, but like when I used to deploy things to the decentralized network, what happened was because the indexes get paid based on the amount of queries you make to your own subgraphs. When the subgraphs are big enough, so it's not that profitable for the indexes, they drop indexing your subgraph, so they just stopped doing it, and it was quite bad. So we keep using the hosted services. Not sure they say it now. This was like a year ago.
A year ago, like the hosted service was only available on mainnet, but now they're like trying to move really fast and then move every subgraph to the decentralized network.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this was great discussion. Kudos to Dino and to the DXdev team for that hacky implementation. Looks good. Looking forward to continue testing it. And I think this will be all for today's weekly developer call. Hopefully, we are going to have good content for the next developer call in a week. So yeah, awesome to have you guys here, and see you in Keybase. Gracias.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Adiós.